Are you ready to lose, little girl?
Are you sure you want to mess with the Queen of Ravens? The authority loses once again. It looks like you boys are at the job, but look, if you guys, the game is free to download.
You know, I liked you better when you had a mask. I never liked you.
WWE, we all know what WWE is. It's something that we all grew up watching throughout our years. Yes, sure, some of you may drop WWE after you quote unquote found out it was fake, even though it's pretty terrible. But I digress. What's up, everyone? It's your boy G. And if you don't know me, I like two things. One is pro wrestling and the other was fighting games. But growing up, I could always be found either watching some WWE or playing some fighting games, mostly Marvel vs. Capcom 2. And one of my greatest challenges is why can't we have both? Like, yeah, we have a long list of wrestling games. It gets stale with the same mechanics, and fighting games at this time is booming with Street Fighter 6, Tekken 8, and Mortal Kombat 1 being the big three when it comes to fighting games. And each of those games having their own wrestlable class in their game, but it doesn't itch the obsession. But what if I told you at a time WWE and WB made such a game, and that game is called WWE Immortals? But what is WWE Immortals, and how well does this lost game hold up to today's gaming world? Well, that's what I'm going to be talking about in today's video. So sit back, grab your John Cena action figure collection, and it's time to talk about WWE Immortals. So before we even get into the game, let's talk about the game that sparked it all, and that's being Injustice, A God Among Us. But with that game selling over 1 million copies, NetherRealm decided to make a mobile version of it and an arcade version that you can find in your local Dave & Buster's. And with WWE being no stranger when it comes to video games and just dropping a mobile version of the 2K games at the time, they would work together and make a mobile game that would be WWE Immortals. This is where it gets interesting. Instead of following the normal gameplay of wrestling games and following their versions of canon or kayfabe, they completely went on a whole 180 on the idea. Even with the gameplay, instead of a traditional wrestling game formula, they went with the Injustice fighting game mechanic. And let me just say now, it is a daring move because that's something no wrestling game has done before and even now. Hell, I wish we could get a wrestling game with a traditional fighting game format. That would be money. But what I find interesting about WWE Immortals, why I keep saying it like that, is how they took some of the wrestlers and gave them a fantasy counterpart to fit games such as Mortal Kombat. And I say some because when it comes down to the character design, honestly, you're gonna either get some hitters or some misses. So with there being 25 playable characters in the game, and with each character, they have their own tier system from bronze to gold, and later adding the additional platinum. Each tier giving them a different costume, basically making them a new character. For example, you have Kane. We all know who this is. Now imagine, what would he look like if he was in Mortal Kombat? Well, a demon, obviously, and that's what we got. And I can say this is a really cool looking design when it comes to Kane. Like, the demon look goes so well for him, and I can honestly say it, and it looks just like Kane. Now we go to his gold tier Kane, which he goes from the demon to a machine, and it's named Big Red Machine. And I understand why they did this, because they will call him that in wrestling, but the design isn't really one of my favorites. It just looks like you just gave Kane an Iron Man suit. Really bad in my opinion. But if we're gonna talk about the worst costumes, let's talk about the bronze Daniel Bryan. Like, it's literally just him. And I think the reason for this costume is because at the time, the Yes Movement would be the biggest storyline in wrestling history. But at least his silver and gold will be better, that being a GOAT version and a superhero version. And yeah, something about the game that they end up doing is that a bunch of these wrestlers will end up getting shared costumes, being the hero fit. And this superhero costume will be called the Evolved version, with 7 wrestlers being Roman Reigns, Daniel Bryan, Big E, Seth Rollins, and Randy Orton, which is crazy, Sheamus, and the poster boy himself, John Cena. And out of all of them, I honestly just see John Cena should just have this costume by himself. Him being the poster child of the game, and also it fits well, especially since the whole Super Cena meme that was happening in the late 2010s. And you might be wondering, how can I get these cool characters? Yeah, microtransactions is a big part of this game. What did you expect from a free-to-play game? If you wanted this good shit, you needed to cough up some of that dough, and plenty of it. It wasn't all bad though. You could play the game and get daily prizes to get a chance to get some of these good characters. But man, the grind was real. But if you did had your parents' credit card on hand, you could have got characters such as the Frost, Stone Cold Steve Austin way earlier in the game. But with all these cool looking characters, I bet you're wondering, how did the game play? Well, we'll talk more about that after this. So what was the gameplay like? As I said, it took a lot of inspiration from the Injustice, damn near copied and pasted with the fighting mechanics, with you having to swipe the screen just to hit the opponents, and building up your rage meter for a super move. And honestly, the super moves wasn't that bad looking, with each corresponding with the character you play like. For instance, we have the Viper Randy Orton. This super would have Randy attack you with their tongue, pause, and do an RKO with the said tongue. And before that happens, you can see him doing his taunt that Randy Orton does in real life. You know, it's the little stuff like this that shows that they really put some effort and thought into this game. Another aspect they did is being able to level up your character through fighting matches, where you earn a credit to spend on your player to level up, or you can buy talent cards to get stronger characters, various booster packs which contain characters, free upgrades, talent cards, and packs containing gear cards were also bought by credits. But there were a few characters you couldn't just throw your money at just to get. You had to unlock them by beating challenge stages. What were these challenge stages? These challenge stages became weekly events and required tokens just to compete in the matches. Each challenge tier were attained by battle matches offered in online matches. These challenge stages had 3 mods that will be available during and had to be complete during the week, and the stage will get progressively more difficult from regular mode, which awarded gold characters, and then you have export mode, which would award you characters such as Skull King, Triple H, Evolve Page, Rogue John Cena, Lunatic Fringe, Dane Ambrose, Xavier Woods, or A-list Johnny Cage. Wait, Johnny Cage? Yeah, so during the game's lifespan, they would do a crossover with Mortal Kombat. And who would join the roster? No other than the movie star himself, Johnny Cage. And what's interesting is that they use the MK9 model of Johnny Cage, not the MK10. And as cool as it is slowly reminding me that this game isn't M-rated, with it being a mobile game and how it has to dim it down for Johnny's moves, that being the lack of fatalities or the use of blood. And I understand at the point where WWE is more into the PG era of things, but I'm sure making a little more violent wouldn't hurt you. You know what I mean? But it's not like there was a lack of fanfare when it comes to this game. No, in fact, the online mode was booming during the time. The online play will be a big part of the game and will hold tournaments for prizes such as immortal credits, special gear cards, and challenge stage tokens. And exclusive characters were offered in these tournaments. Players will earn battle points to increase the tournament rankings by competing in 3 types of matches. Single matches, which is you just go up against 1 opponent. Show matches, which you go up against 3 opponents. And then you have main event. Later, the game will do special events. These will be rewarded to players with cards and more characters. The first event will be a ladder event, where we get Sergeant Slaughter as the new character. Each level carried its own rewards when enough ladders were collected. A platinum pack was the reward if enough ladders were obtained during the time. The next event will be called the Zombie Invasion, which allowed players to gain goldified zombie versions of the 4 WWE superstars. You had to choose 3 of their immortals to compete in a 5-stage gauntlet match, with the first 4 stages featuring 2 immortals and 1 zombified wrestler, and the 5th stage featuring 3 of the zombie wrestlers. But with all good things, it sadly came to an end. But why is that? Well, there's a lot of reasons, but here are some things I'd like to point out on why it could have shut down. First, it would have been the licensing. This game ran for about 4 years, and I think that was the time span of the agreement between WWE and WB Studios. And yes, they could have continued on with the game and got a new deal, but there's an aspect that WWE does a lot, and that's early cancellations. WWE is no stranger to canceling really big projects with the span of a few years. The WWE Network comes to mind. So it wasn't really surprising to find out that this game doesn't exist anymore. And another thing that WWE does is once they made something, they already on to the next 5 projects. Like, let's look at the 2K games. Once a game is released, they promote it for about 4 months and never bring it up until the next game. So you know they're not going to be constantly promoting a game from 2017. And lastly, it's the wrestlers themselves. You see, most of the wrestlers don't stay with WWE forever. Like, grab a 2K15 game and count how many wrestlers that aren't in WWE. So Immortals are in the same situation, and WWE doesn't want to promote wrestlers who don't work for them. And sure, they could do updates where they take them off, but that will hurt so many people who put hard-earned money into the game. Probably less than just shutting the whole thing down. But with the climate how WWE is changing nowadays, I would really love to see a new WWE fighting game. It doesn't have to be WWE Immortals 2, but I would love to see them try a crack into the fighting game realm. Heck, they have so many unique wrestlers in their own style alone. It doesn't have to just be nothing but grapples. We have wrestlers that are strikers. We have wrestlers that could kick. But that's just me. Would you guys like to see some type of wrestling fighting game in the future? But other than that, that's gonna be it for today's video, y'all. And I want to know, did you ever play WWE Immortals, and would you like to see it come back in some format? Like I said, I wouldn't mind seeing WWE try to make another fighting game or try something experimental later down the line. With the new owners and the Netflix deal, I'm pretty sure they could waste a couple of $100,000, especially if it's a console game. So don't forget to leave a like on the video, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you can watch the next video. So till the next one, peace.
Endless battles, the struggles, it was all worth it. The Dark Lantern was within reach. Bray Wyatt would be able to